All right. My name is Carrie Marsh Dixon. I'm the Executive Secretary of the Parks Commission. Max, please.
My name is Max Ford Diamond. I'm the tree warden, city arborist for the city of Boston.
Todd,
Todd Meestor, Director of Urban Forestry, City of Boston Parks.
Liza,
Liza Meyer, Chief Landscape Architect, Boston Parks.
Shauna.
Shauna Dixon, also from Boston Parks.
Okay. This is a request to remove 28 trees in the vicinity of 244 to 84 A Street in South Boston as follows. On Binford Street, there are 5 sweetgum trees measuring 4 inches in diameter, 6 oak trees measuring 2.5 inches in diameter, and 6 elm trees measuring 2.5 inches in diameter. On A Street, there are 5 honey locust trees measuring 2.5 inches in diameter, and 6 honey locust trees measuring 3 inches in diameter. So who would like to make, Chris, do you want to make the presentation or start the presentation?
Rob, I figure you'll take the lead on this.
Sure. Yep. I can share the screen. Give me 1 second. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Just a recap of what you just said, Carrie. So the 5 sweetgums along Binford, 12 mix of oak and what we thought was hornbeam along the side, and then 11 honey locust, all within the right of way. There is a small section of privately owned street called Garage Access Way. All of those trees will remain. The trees on the east side of A Street will remain, and a few of the trees on the south side of Binford Street will remain. The primary purpose of this is the channel side development as part of the 100 acres master plan. Really, the removal of the trees is to help facilitate the widening of A Street per the City of Boston BPDA and transportation request, as well as to meet complete streets along Binford Street and accommodate changes in grade to accomplish sea level rise mitigation as laid out in Climate Ready South Boston and some additional work that the city is doing. And so you can see on the plan, the project has 3 buildings, just simply G6. These are the 100-acre parcel names. G6 is a commercial lab here on the corner of Binford and A. G4, which is a residential on the upper right, and G5, which is a commercial building, and then 2 open spaces, a harbor walk, and some additional work just outside the existing Binford, or within the Binford Street right of way. I can go into more detail on the type of tree species, but a mix of different tree species, obviously continuing to work with Liza and her team and Max and others on the final decision. The good part is that the 2 parks are being conveyed over to the Parks Department once they're complete, and part of that process requires us to have at least 1 public, up to 2 public meetings with the BPRD, as well as various check-in points at document submission. So there'll be an ongoing discussion about new trees. That's really the sum of the changes as part of this project.
Okay, if you go back to the previous plan, please, thank you. And can you quickly just point out the trees being removed on this plan so that we can see in the context of what you're planning to do?
Yeah, it's hard to, those trees that we're removing are all along A Street, right along here, and along Binford on this side, as well as Binford on this side. We're changing so much that the existing and proposed.
So are they ghosted? I'm sorry, are they ghosted on this plan? Those
No,
two?
the ones that with the little dot, the lighter colors, are all trees that Related Beal is installing outside of their property line as part of this project. The dark green are new trees that are being part of the project, but within the property line. And so on Binford, we are essentially these 3 trees we're replacing in kind. The rest of them were moving sidewalks, curb lines, etc. So there's really not the ability to essentially replace in kind, if you will, but we are creating new street trees along A Street and new street trees along Binford Street to replace those that are being removed.
Okay, so maybe go back to the plan that shows the trees to be removed, and we'll just work from there right now.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Is there anything further you'd like to present? Anyone on your team?
I don't think so. I mean, Related Beal is on the call, and if there's questions, that you would like them to field, Andrew Wong, I think is probably the name you'll see, but I think for now, that seems sufficient. If there's questions later on that ask about the new right of way and where the curb alignment is in relationship to old and proposed trees, we can happily share that material as well if that's helpful.
Okay. All right, Max, would you like to speak about the trees, please?
I inspected the trees last month. The trees, as you stated earlier, there are 28 trees within the public right of way that are being requested for removal. I'm not going to go into specifics as they were on the public notice and you already noted them earlier. All of the trees are alive and healthy and in good condition except for 3 honey locusts on A Street. The 3 honey locusts on A Street, there are 3 that are in poor condition currently, that only half of their canopy is alive. Other than that, all of the trees are in good to excellent condition. Some of the trees have been planted within the last year, others planted within the last 3 to 5 years. Because of this, we are holding this public tree hearing.
All right, Liza, do you have anything?
Yeah, I think I'll take you up on your offer to go into more detail, Rob. I think it would be helpful if you could just talk through what is more specifically what's driving the removals in these different locations.
Yep.
So it's part of the conversation, because once we shift to questions from the public, we won't be having back and forth. So I just want
Okay.
everyone to have all the information now.
Yeah, so A Street is, I'll say, the prime location where changes are being made. And so this diagram, what you're seeing is the proposed roadway section with 249A, the east side of A Street on the right, our proposed building, which is where the current parking lot is. On the left side, the roadway that the city of Boston has requested is essentially the 8-foot sidewalk on the opposite side remains, a buffered bike lane, a parking lane, 2 lanes of travel, north and southbound, a bike lane, a buffer, parking, furnishing zone for new street trees, 8-foot minimum sidewalk, our building. And so we have essentially created a new right of way. And what you can see in the overlay, so to speak, this pink line is the existing curb line of A Street, and the blue is roughly where the existing trees are in relationship to the existing curb line and the proposed right of way. So you can see we're essentially expanding the existing right of way. I have it by 25.5 feet. So approximately this line here is roughly where the existing curb line is. You can see in the proposed conditions as required by the city of Boston to provide bike facilities and complete streets along A Street. We're moving the curb line quite a few feet to the west and essentially rendering, those existing trees moot or located in the middle of the proposed street. I will say that we are, and the proponent and the design team are dedicated to providing an abundance of sand-based structural soil, both underneath the treeway and the proposed sidewalk, permeable pavers, irrigation, etc., for all the street trees along A Street that we're replacing. So that's A Street. Is that clear? Binford, sorry, I'm panning through a bunch of slides. Binford is a similar but different concept. So many streets. The existing curb line, we're more or less keeping the existing curb line in place. Some slight modifications, but providing, I'll say, a better street tree system and a better sidewalk, essentially making it compliant with complete streets. So you'll see we are increasing the right of way by about 5 feet additionally, and all those trees that are on our side, which is the north side here on this plan. We're essentially replacing with new street trees with similar conditions, sand-based structural soil, irrigation, and creating a 5.5 foot furnishing zone and 8 foot plus sidewalk, which is superior, vastly superior to what's out there today. The few trees on the other side of Binford, this gets a little more complicated. Bear with me as I go here. There's a handful of trees on the south side of Binford that we need to replace, and we're more or less replacing those in kind with the addition of Necco Street here through the middle of the site, and the need to get to a resiliency, a design flood elevation of 21.5. We need to raise Necco Street and finish grade. We call this the pink plan, but you can essentially grasp that the darker the pink, the more finish grade we're raising. And so you can see on Binford Street, there's a point approximately mid-block where we're going to start raising Binford's finish grade so that we can get up to Necco Street, so that we can get up to the design flood elevation. So all those trees, those 4 trees, I think, on the left side of Binford are either being replaced due to left side, south side being replaced due to grading, or being replaced because of Necco Street's kind of creation. As you can see, Necco Street doesn't exist today, and so these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trees again are being replaced because of grade changes or because of the extension of Necco Street. And
Thanks.
I'll throw in, there's a lot of gymnastics occurring around grading, etc., around access to the garage tunnel, stair tower, as well as providing Gillette access to their pump house along Binford Street's corridor.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Liza, is that all for you?
Yeah, that's it, thanks.
Todd, did you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, if I'm just looking for a little bit of clarification, Rob.
Yep.
On that last image that you had, that you just showed with about the access to the pump house and that, because it had the trees with the dots on it. Yeah.
Yep.
So on the left-hand side there, the trees with the dots are outside of your outside of your property line. But on A Street, all the trees, so you would be removing everything from the right of way, widening the right of way on A Street, but then every existing tree would be within the property line of the new building. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, what's shown here, we have, I can't answer 100% where the new Chris can answer this better than I can. I think what we're doing is providing, let me scroll down, we're providing, the right of way may stay the same, and this 25'6" extension is going to be a easement, or are we actually granting more right of way, Chris?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So per PIC, that rather than taking it by fee, the city would just take an easement over the existing parcels. So it'll be a part of the right of way, but it will still also be within the property line. And it's the same for Necco Street, where we're creating a new public way of Necco Street, and there will be street trees there as well. And that'll be taken as an easement by PIC, which is the other process that sort of what began this process was our PIC notifications. And so that'll be the same thing, where it'll be an easement through the site, which will also be the right of way.
Right. So that dash line that I just circled in the blue is essentially the dash line that you see here. So it's the existing property line, and as Chris mentioned, we're moving that right of way line to the face of the building. So I either apologize, or it is the way this drawing is that it shows the property in line and not the right of way lines. Does that make sense, Todd?
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Is this a typical procedure that PIC I'm asking kind of our team, I guess, that PIC undergoes to widen right of ways and then take easements that encompass the street trees and the sidewalks? not sure that I'm not aware of it, so I'm not really sure how that would work. So maybe we need to have some conversations with PIC about what will become street trees on private property with an easement. Not sure. Did you speak specifically to the size of the trees that you will and the species of trees that you'll be replacing or proposing to replace?
Yeah, again, nothing is set in stone because we're looking forward to working with Liza on the exact species. I will say all of the shade trees will be somewhere all 95% of the shade trees will be somewhere between 3 to 4 inch caliper going in. There may be the desire in some places to put in within the center of the park, put in some smaller species so that there's smaller calipers so that there's a little bit of variation to the rhythm of the trees, but all the street trees will most likely be 3.5 inch caliper as standard. Our ornamental trees within the park obviously won't be that. They'll probably be spec'd at 10 to 12 foot multi-stem height. But yeah, all the proposed kind of replacement street trees will be 3 to 3.5 to 4 inch caliper.
So they'll be
And-
larger than what you're proposing to remove. What's
Yes.
do you have a count on the total diameter inch remove that you're requesting to remove plus what you're going to replace them with?
We're adding 120 plus shade trees to the area. I don't have, and as Todd pointed out, like the boundary between right of way and property line is a little bit vague. So just on Binford Street alone, if we're adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, we're adding 36 to 40 inch caliper back, and I don't know how many, what's being removed. Probably there's an existing 17 at 2, about the same. Just alone on Binford Street, we're increasing the caliper inches.
You don't have to do it here in front in the presentation, but that would be information that would be good to have. Is there anything else that you'd like to present your team here? Either by graphically or verbally?
I'm thinking so that I can forever hold my peace. I don't think so. Chris, is there anything to add around right of way or easements?
I guess I would just add just so that it's clear. So the topmost part of Binford Street, the westernmost part of Binford Street, where there are those trees running down the center there. So that right of way is going to remain part of Public Works, at least that's the plan as of now. And so those will also be street trees, the ones that are in what is the middle of the existing street now, but the street itself is going to end and turn right onto Necco Street. And then there will be those trees within the right of way there also. So just point of clarification there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Max, did you receive all the information that we've just seen presented?
I have not seen this full presentment. I have a shortened version. So if Rob or Chris, if you could send that to Carrie, Liza, and myself, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, I think we had sent, yes, we can send the kind of sections and other information we'd sent. Hopefully we had copied you with all the existing trees to be removed, replacement, suggested species, but we can.
Yeah, I have that part.
Yep, we can definitely provide you the sections that show
Okay.
the old right-of-way lines or old curb lines, proposed curb lines.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be.
Anything that, oh, sorry. Anything that you presented today, we need to see and have for the record.
Yep.
So thank you for that. Max, do you have a count on the number of emails, letters, or other input that you've received from the public on this?
Yes, I do. So far, we have a total of 13 letters of opposition to the removal of these trees that I can forward to you.
Okay. So we'll open up if there are no more comments from the team or presentation from the team and no more comments from our team, then we'll open it up to public comments. This is a hearing, so we're here to hear your comments, but we won't have a back and forth with the proponents, we, at the end, if the tree warden wants to respond or ask for a clarification on any of the points that were raised, then he'll do so. But you're welcome to raise your hand now if you'd like to add any public comments to the testimony here for the record, and we'll take you in the order that your hands are raised.
Looks like Steve Hollinger.
And Shauna will unmute you as we go through.
Hi, thank you. This is Steve Hollinger, resident. First of all, Carrie, I want to thank you personally for the years of work you and your team have done in our neighborhood. It's just been extraordinary, and it lends me so much optimism. The work has been amazing. I appreciate it. First of all, there was a lot of support in the community for widening of A Street, complete streets, and the setback at G6. So I support the justification for removal of the trees, but I have a couple problems with the proposal. First of all, the project is still in permitting. It hasn't completed Chapter 91 permitting at DEP, which includes evaluation of open space, and the project has no construction schedule. This is the real big one. Is I said in my letter, we don't want to be left with a Filene's Hole situation in our neighborhood where they remove the trees and then we're left with 5 to 10 years of no trees because they've delayed construction. And you know how PDAs roll out. They roll out in phases. While the proponent says they'll proceed with G6 first, that's not definite, but it would be great to have construction schedule and some confirmation that the tree replacement is going to happen within 2 to 3 years, or at least a reasonable time. Secondly, I have an issue with what I think is a proposed removal of street trees at 232 A Street, the abutting project. And that project is in permitting at BPDA. That proponent hasn't gone through any public engagement on the removal of those trees. So I have an issue, if that's true, I have an issue with the removal of trees on a project that hasn't even finished city permitting. So those are my concerns, mostly when we'll see the replacement trees arriving, and also the fact that the project itself is still in permitting. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Valerie Burns. Valerie, you'll need to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yep, now we can.
Oh, good. Thank you. Sorry about that. Like Steve, I would like to thank the Parks team for helping us in so many issues in our neighborhood, especially with A Street Park and with street trees coming to Fort Point. I'm a resident of Fort Point at 249 A Street. And we have seen many of these images before from the developer. And the widening of A Street is supported. There's some question about Binford Street and whether it's going to become a service alley and lined with loading docks, but that's not for this hearing. My concern is with schedule, and we haven't heard a word in the presentation today about schedule. The 244, 284 A Street, the Channelside development by Related Beal, is still in Article 80 process. It has it's had a board vote. It does not have a cooperation agreement. And the cooperation agreement is the legally binding commitment for a project. And that I'm a member of the IAG for this project, and the IAG will be seeing a draft of the cooperation agreement. We have not seen it. So, and in addition, the project is also going through Chapter 91 permitting. And we know that the developer has asked for multiple Chapter 91 licenses and has begun to share information about the project going forward in phases or in sections. I am very concerned about the timing of this, of the removal of these trees and the timing of when actual construction, once permitting is completed, construction will go on at this project. And I think that we're a neighborhood that doesn't have a lot of street trees, or trees in general. We have trees in A Street Park. We have some in Little Wormwood Park, and we have our street trees, which has been increasingly added over the last 20 years or so after the big dig went through. We need these trees, and we need to keep them as long as possible. Replacements are great. They're not actually in kind because some of the sizes are slightly different, but we can't be treeless for 2 to 3 years. So there has to be some refinement in the scheduling of replanting the trees. We appreciate that there's going to be a new park. We worked hard with the community worked hard with the developer. The community worked with the park department and with the city to have this be one of our primary community benefits. And it's important that the park department has agreed to take it in ownership. But in the meantime, and we know that projects can be delayed. Steve mentioned the Feline's Hole. We've seen other kinds of delays in the Seaport neighborhood to our north. Projects don't turn out the way initial schedules are presented. So I am really encouraging the park department to be thoughtful about, and realistic, I have to say, about what's going to happen to this project at what time, and for us to be without trees for years. And that, I think, that is not appropriate. It isn't fair to this neighborhood. These trees have a real benefit for us in terms of cooling and air quality and visual aesthetic. And it's important that these trees stay as long as possible before construction is going to commence. Of course, there's no construction permit yet because the project is not completely permitted through Article 80. So we have a ways to go here. And I really encourage the park department to think about the timing and the impact on the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah Freeman.
Hi, everyone. Hope you can hear me.
We can.
Okay, good. I do not live right in the neighborhood, but I do live in the city and I do go to South Boston on occasion. When I saw 28 trees, that just sounded like a lot. And like the previous speakers, I'm a fan of complete streets, but I also am reminded when I think about it that so many trees don't survive. You know, new trees look good on paper, but established trees are really not to be taken lightly. I wonder if you considered a design that would have the existing, I know it gets fussy with private property, but could the trees be like a median and have either a bike lane or travel lane on the opposite side of the existing trees so that they could be incorporated? Does that make sense?
That does make sense as an idea. We can see if that's been considered when we're done with the public hearing portion.
Yeah, thank you. It just seems like it's a time for innovative thinking, and 28's a lot. And as I keep hearing Green New Deal City, and not to put anyone in the room in an awkward spot, but trees are kind of at the short end of the stick of the Green New Deal. I love what they're doing with green buildings and transportation, but would like to raise the bar a bit when it comes to the natural solutions part. So that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah.
I see Tom Reedy.
Thanks, Carrie. Tom Reddy. I live in the neighborhood. I'm a member of the neighborhood association. I clearly would echo what Steve Hollinger and Valerie Burns have stated with regard to the appreciation that we have for the Parks Department and all of the work that your team has put in to make this portion of South Boston a little nicer, right, and a little better for all of us that live here. I'm also concerned, as we all have heard from our neighbors, with regard to the timing of this. As previously mentioned, an awful lot of work has gone in, public meetings, et cetera, with regard to the width of this street, with regard to the size of the park, an awful lot of with regard to the street design and complete streets. In fact, transportation was just out here yesterday looking at A Street. The street was just resurfaced and repainted, and there's a known problem, obviously, when we get to the narrow sections of A Street about how we make it safe for all modes: people, bikes, people riding on a bus, people driving in a car. So completely support the widening of A Street. The concern, as stated, is the timing of this. So as mentioned, not complete the state process, not complete the city process. No PIC hearing has actually occurred on this. So having a tree removal hearing just seems out of sequence. And I would just ask that the tree team, I'll call you the tree team, Carrie, because I'm not quite sure what to call all of you guys on the call, but that the tree team consider deferring this hearing until and the application itself and until it's best sequenced with the overall construction plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Knox.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, I'm Lisa Knox, and I've lived in this neighborhood since about 1990. At that time, it was pretty much a barren kind of industrial wasteland, and we had virtually no green anything at that time. And then we had the big dig. I remember it was around 2003 when the trees actually came onto A Street. It was such a momentous event for those of us who live here to have those trees. And many of us got together. We adopted trees. Each one of us took responsibility for watering them through the first summer to get them through. And so one of my points is that these trees mean something to the neighborhood, or, and I think that everyone can think of a favorite tree that they've had, or, that's been in their lawn or in their family. And these trees mean that to many of us in the neighborhood. I understand, all the points that you're making for, widening the street and bike lanes, and that new trees are going to be going in there. But I'm hoping that we can keep these trees as long as possible. They've been soldiers for us. They've, protected us from the heat, decorated our community. We've hung art from them. So there is a value to them that I think extends beyond just, talking about green space. And again, I'm also someone who appreciates all that's being done. I understand the complexity of the project for Related Beal, and they are trying to improve the space, but I'm against the timing of this. As much time as we can keep the trees would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Yvonne, are you there?
Yes, thank you. My name is Yvonne Lallier, and I don't live in the neighborhood, but I read the description of the project, and I want to echo the comments of Valerie and Lisa regarding the value of the trees, and also I appreciate Zara's suggestion to modify the widening of the street so that the bike lane, because I'm also a bike rider, as Sarah is, and so we appreciate the bike lanes, but not at the expense of existing trees. I am, just as Lisa said, very appreciative of what trees do for us. I'm not a native speaker and I cannot be as eloquent as the other presenters, but I found the presentation very confusing. And I think it needs really to go back to the drawing table and consider saving as many trees as possible. This is just a massacre. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yvonne. David?
Thank you. My name is David Meshulam, Executive Director here at Speak for the Trees. I know I'm not supposed to ask any questions, but I found one slide confusing, and it's possible to bring it up. I would appreciate it. It's the slide that's the street view with the blue tree and the orange tree. I don't know if that's possible, because I had a question about that tree, that slide.
Carrie?
It's fine to bring it up. I'm not recalling what it was.
The street view with like the parking and the.
Yep. Bear with me. Sorry.
I just had a brief question about it, and then I'll leave it at that. You don't have to answer that question. I just was confused about why there are 3 trees on the left and what each represents. What is the blue? Is that a tree there, the blue one, or is that something else?
The blue are the 2-inch caliper existing street trees within the right of way. The larger orange is a tree that's on private property.
I gotcha. Thank you. Okay, that's very helpful. And so 2 trees are being removed and being replaced with 1 tree. Am I understanding that correctly?
No, this just shows, sorry, Carrie, this just shows simply a section. If you want to look at the section, there are street trees in the sidewalk, the blue trees that march up and down A Street, right? And then there are some other existing trees outside of the right of way that are along A Street as well. The plan is just on the bottom is just a small snippet of the overall streetscape character. So whether there's 2 or 3 or 1, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head that's on the other plan, but so this just represents their location in section.
So we have asked for the proponent to provide their presentation, and when we have that, we can disseminate it to anyone that would like to have a chance to look at it more closely.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Thank you. So I met with Valerie and Philip Mann a couple of years ago when we looked at these trees here. And I know there was a lot of concern back then about their removal. I appreciate how far the conversation has seemed to have moved in a very productive direction around increasing the canopy here, making more public space. And I'm sure there have been lots of challenging but clearly productive conversations around that, and I want to commend the Parks Department and their work in ensuring that trees are central to this location. And I also just want to echo the concerns I've heard from residents in the area around staging of these tree removals and ensuring that the existing trees can stay in place as long as possible, because they provide not only enormous public health benefits, but also, as we heard, they're really they provide a lot of emotional comfort, I've heard from residents who have seen them grow in those spaces. So I just encourage the staging of this to be considered as the project moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Constance Sweet, please.
Hi, sorry, it's under Joanna Hines. Constance is my daughter.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So I'd like to just echo what Yvonne said, which I thought was really moving. I found the presentation to be very confusing as well. And I do think it's sad to even get a notice, to see a notice where a developer is requesting, the removal of 28 trees in the city of Boston, because what that tells me is that they think there's a chance that they're going to get to do that. So, the city, whether they realize it or not, have given this message that, yeah, we'll consider that. We'll consider those sorts of requests. There's no protective tree ordinance in the city of Boston. And I understand that these trees may be protected under a different chapter, but regardless, it says a lot when the city of Boston has no protective tree ordinance whatsoever. Developers know that. And so it's clearly, I do recognize that most of the people on this call that work for the city do care about trees. I know you do, but I don't think developers are coming into these conversations, worried that they may get, sort of laughed at for even asking for such a ridiculous number of approved removals. So I think the problem really is, how Boston's being perceived in terms of what's acceptable. And this request is totally unacceptable. And I hope that the city will use this as an opportunity to say to this developer and to all developers that come forth with these sorts of ridiculous requests that no, we're not going to do things like this anymore. We have a climate crisis that we're in the middle of, and we are not going to remove natural assets that serve all of us for an ill-conceived design plan. A design plan that doesn't recognize the natural assets that are in place is not a good design plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? If so, please raise your hand now. Okay, seeing none. Max, is there anything that you've heard that you want to address or get more clarification on here, or or you can explain how we'll proceed from here?
I do not need clarification on anything further, Carrie. I have everything that I need. I think we can proceed. Oh, it looks like we have someone's. David. David, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, just a quick, thank you, Max. Just a quick favor. Is there a way to get a report, or when you do whatever comes next, is there a way to make sure that we are aware of next steps?
Yep.
Can you share with us, like whatever letter you write or recommendation you make?
So, sir, the tree warden is about to explain what comes next, and so he will address that question.
Okay, thank you.
What the next steps are. Thank you.
There are 2 other hands raised at this point.
Yeah, I see that now. Rocco, would you like to speak?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I would just like to make one observation. There have been many references to the 28 trees that are proposed to be removed. And I'd like to point out that if we count the 38 existing honey locust trees that are within the perimeter of the development, what that amounts to is that Related Beal is proposing to destroy not 28, but 66. That's 66 trees to make way for this development. So I would just like to get that out there and have that on the record. Thank you.
thank you. And Christine Valancourt, please.
Am I unmuted now? Yes.
Yep.
Oh, I just wanted to say, I live in Christine Valancourt. I live in 249 A Street, the Artist Building. We're the only residential building on Summer Street. And when the Crossroads Initiative was happening and the residents here found out that all our trees were going to be removed and replaced, they were up in arms and very upset because we too watered them and cared for them and planted flowers around them, et cetera, for a long time. But some of them did struggle because the dirt wasn't good. So they replaced it with a better, I guess you call it irrigation system, and better dirt and deeper so that the roots could survive. And once that they were replaced, they replaced them with big, beautiful ones that could withstand salt, air, and wind. And we're very happy with them now, and they're tall and beautiful. And the Crossroads Initiative only replaced them, what was it, a couple years ago? And they're better than the trees that we had before. Not saying that the A Street trees could be replaced with better ones, but I just wanted to let you know that nobody is complaining about our new trees here on Summer Street. And I do understand the timeline. We don't want to be left with the heat wave bearing down on us while walking on A Street for 2 or 3 years. I do understand that concept, but I'm for the improvements of that Related Beal has suggested. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I don't see anyone else. So Max, would you like to speak to the process moving forward from here?
Yes, I can. So we have 2 weeks from the date of this hearing to form a letter of determination between myself and the Commissioner of the Parks Department. We will take into consideration all the letters we received, all the public comment, as well as the proponent's presentation. Within that 2 weeks, we will issue the letter of determination. If the letter of determination states that we are allowed the removal of the trees, the project will be eligible for reimbursement of the replacement bond. As stated to the proponent in previous emails, the replacement bond is currently calculated at $550 per inch of diameter being removed. You're currently requesting 80.5 inches of diameter being removed from the public right-of-way. If the project is approved, we ask that the trees that are replaced have to be alive and healthy after 2 years of the trees being installed. Once that 2-year period is over, you can then request from the Parks Department or the tree warden at the time reimbursement for the value of the diameter that you have replaced within the public right-of-way. So if you're removing 80.5 inches from the public right-of-way and you replace 100 inches within the public right-of-way, and that 100 inches is alive and healthy 2 years after, we will reimburse you for the total replacement bond that you originally paid for. If after the notice that you received says that the hearing is denied, said trees must be protected during construction and during the entire process of construction for this Related Beals project. Again, you will have a letter of determination within 2 weeks. Are there any other questions from the proponent? Nope.
Okay, so at this point then we can end the hearing. The comment period.
I'm sorry, Carrie. So Steve Faber, he's with the proponent as well. He just raised his hand.
Sorry, missed that. Certainly, Mr. Faber, speak, please.
Thank you, Carrie. So my question is really relative to many of the concerns that we heard about timing. Is it possible for the determination to also discuss and provide direction to the developers such that the community feels assured that we're not going to remove trees unless and until construction is going to begin.
Yes, that's certainly possible, sir. The determination letter will engage or it will include specifics as to timing, types of trees or areas of trees that can be removed while others might not. There are many variables that can be included in that determination.
That's great. Thank you. Because it is not our intention under any circumstances to unnecessarily remove a single tree earlier than it needs to be. So thank you, and thank you for your leadership. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Max, do you want to speak to that any further?
Yeah, we can. That has happened in numerous tree hearing determinations where we do not allow the removal of the trees until all of the permitted process has gone through and that all the permits have been received and that we receive documentation regarding those permits being approved. So that is definitely something that we will take into consideration.
All right, so I don't see any more comments or hands raised, so we can end the hearing now. The determination will be made within 2 weeks. This presentation, hopefully we'll have it by the end of the day today. And so if there's a request or anyone would like to see it, they can email the tree warden, Max, or myself. And I believe that's it. So thank you all for your, thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the comments. And
thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Carrie.
thank you.
Thank you.